Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the next section, we have set up a fire chat between Gabby Dizon, co-founder of YGG, and Miro Nguyen Hu. He's the host of Vietnam Innovator Podcast, Vietcetera Media. So they will have a discussion about the topic Web3 identity and reputation through the lens of gaming. A quick introduction about them. Gabby Dizon is the co-founder of YGG, and Miro is now the host for Vietnam Innovator Podcast, Vietcetera. So we believe that they will have a lot of insightful and exciting discussion around Web3, gaming, and entrepreneurship. So please.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. So I had a very good privilege to sit here and host this the chat with Gabby. I don't know how many of you know Gabby. Maybe you raise hands if you know Gabby Dizon. Okay. So let's start with your background first. Tell us about your background in the gaming industry and potentially your journey into the blockchain.
Sure. So I started actually in game development. So I was part of the team that created the first ever game out of the Philippines in 2003. So I've been making games for almost 20 years now. And in 2014, I started a mobile game studio called Altitude Games. So we were making mobile games for iOS and Android phones. But I would say that starting in 2014, we were a little bit late into mobile free-to-play. A lot of the early companies started maybe 2009, 2010. So I didn't want to be late for whatever the next wave was going to be in gaming. So that led me to discover crypto and blockchain, and specifically smart contracts in 2017. There had been efforts for crypto startups in the Philippines before then, but most of them were centered around Bitcoin and remittances. And being a game developer, I wasn't too interested in that. But the idea of smart contracts was very interesting because now you could program value inside of virtual economies, and that was what we were doing with games. We were creating very interesting gameplay around game economies that people wanted to play in and eventually spend money in. So we started playing around with smart contracts and putting them inside games. And while we were doing that, CryptoKitties came out in 2017 and popularized the non-fungible token. So that was when I said, this is it. NFTs are going to change gaming. And I went in full time from there.
Okay, thanks for that. Many people, they are telling about you that you are father of the play to earn. How come that this is connected with you?
Well, after playing with different NFT games, I started actually joined the community of Axie Infinity back in 2018. And for those, most of you probably know, Axie Infinity is created by a local company here, Sky Mavis. But in 2018, it was a very small company with a very small community of enthusiasts who were using games as a way to learn about NFT and blockchain technology. So when I came in the Discord in October 2018, there were less than 500 people playing the game. And people were really interested in how to use gaming applications for NFTs and blockchain. So that was my start in the community. Really, it was a passionate member. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, we noticed that the player numbers of Axie started to grow. And this was because in Axie, there was a method where you could earn what they call Smooth Love Potion or SLP tokens by winning matches inside the game. And the tokens were used to be able to breed more Axies, so to create more Axies. So this was the gameplay loop. And during the pandemic, the SLP started to gain more value because more people were buying it. And yeah, that's really what started the growth loop of Axie. And we saw a lot of growth then.
Okay, I think that if I may challenge you a bit, after that growth, somehow it's go for the kind of the decline trend, right? So does it mean that the model was unsustainable, or what happened?
Yeah, so we've seen a big rise in Web3 gaming or play to earn or GameFi, however you want to call it. In 2021, 2022, it started going down as well. And now it's probably like too much down, like a lot of people have left. But I think now people are trying to learn, like, what are the lessons from the last 2 years, right? The innovation that Axie made was putting parts of their economy on the blockchain, specifically the NFTs themselves, and then the ERC20, the tradable tokens like SLP, which form part of the game economy. I think what happened then was that if you make parts of your economy available to exchanges, as what happened with SLP token, it means that it is very prone to speculation that is outside of the actual game itself. So that's probably what happened. You saw a lot of more speculation that was more than the game. So people who were earning tokens in the game thought that they were earning a certain amount of money, but it was mainly due to the value of speculation. So now that the hype has died down, the serious players, you see Axie with their new version of the game, Origins, and lots more developers coming out with new versions of Web3 games. People are trying to design ways to make their game economy still valuable, but as kind of, I would say, not as prone to speculation as they are before.
Okay, thank you very much. In regards of you are also the co-founder of YGG. Potentially, can you share with us and share with me what was the reason that you established the YGG, as well as what was this problem that you were trying to solve on that time?
Sure. So Yield Guild Games, or YGG, we are a Web3 gamer community that organizes players around these different Web3 games. And it was actually originally born as being part of the Axie community. The special thing about being part of that community early on is that when guilds started forming on top of games like Axie, it was something that was very community-driven. It was not something that the game developers thought about themselves. And what is now known as the scholarship or the lending program to lend out NFTs to other players to play the game was something that was originally discovered by the community. It wasn't a feature that was enabled by the developers. And when that happened, we basically decided that we wanted to scale the kind of operations to make NFTs available to different players from around the world. And so we raised a small seed round in 2020 from international investors. And then we started growing the guild, first in the Philippines and then globally.
I was very impressed when I was invited to this event, and I was starting to do a bit of research about you and your nice video where the play to earn somehow was born in Kapatuan in the Philippines. But now, when I was looking a bit deeper, YGG is so complicated organization across the region. So maybe give us a bit of the understanding how it is connected, how it is contributing together, how this network is able to collaborate.
Yeah, so at the core, YGG seeks to really support player guilds, Web3 player guilds around the world. So we're not one guild in itself. We want to be able to enable different players who love to play their favorite games. So we have guild partners from around the world. For example, we have YGG Philippines, where we started. And then we have WeGG, which is YGG in Southeast Asia, covering Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia. We have IndieGG for India, OlaGG for Latin America. And so we have native communities from these parts of the world that are bringing up the communities and teaching them about Web3. And at the same time, YGG seeks to coordinate and help them all with their mission.
For example, right now, if we look at so-called the Web 2 and Web 3, so YGG, they're still the kind of collaboration with more traditional industries. So how, for example, like from the perspective of the providers, vendors, how we are able to work with YGG?
Yeah, so we work with a bunch of different companies. For example, just as an aside, so we're supporting Ronin Network of Axie as a validator. And one of the key supporters of Ronin is Google Cloud, for example. So companies like Google provide I would say, tech infrastructure that allow us to scale the effort that we're doing. So it's not just like completely decentralized. You work with some of the centralized tech, decentralized tech, but at the end of the day, you want to give ownership of parts of that economy to your user base, to your players. And I guess for us, that's what we're really after.
Okay, so now from the perspective of the gamer, I don't know how it is in the different countries, but in Vietnam, if you have the kids and they are gamers, mainly the prejudice will be that, okay, this is the waste of time, you should focus on the school, you should study more. How we are able to use this to maybe attract and maybe to change the mindset for this kind of the kind of the cultural topic, right?
Yeah, that was probably true in the Philippines as well, maybe 15, 20 years ago. But that is slowly changing, first through esports, where there's some competitive players that are seen as the best in the world and they're being treated like athletes. But I think with Web3, there's more ways to contribute and to make money from being in games than with esports, right? So for example, if you look at Web3 communities and Web3 guilds, there's different types of people that really contribute. There are people who are, for example, community managers. There are people who are marketers who create memes to make their community more popular. There are the content creators, streamers, people who create video content, and then you have the technologists that also make all of these products happen. So there's actually a lot of work in creating these games because they are now virtual economies. Whereas before, if maybe you were playing a game just to pass the time, now you're creating an economy around these games, and there's different ways for people to participate in and be rewarded in this economy.
Okay, so what we are telling that is not only the game that you just the game they play and they earn something, but it's more about the economy. So tell me a bit more how, for example, we are sitting in a university. So if the students they are studying language design or anything else, how could they contribute to that economy, or how they can participate in that economy?
First of all, joining events like this is really great. I think it's great for you to have exposure not only to the latest technology, but also the communities. So yeah, hats off to Nicole and Erica for organizing this. I think from here, you'll get exposed to different communities. It's great to know, for example, that projects like NEAR have had a presence in Vietnam for a while now. There's also a YGG presence in Vietnam and all across Southeast Asia. And there, once you start getting involved in these communities, then you know what do they need and what kind of skills are needed for these projects to prosper. So you don't necessarily have to be a programmer. It might be that you're contributing some design skill, your project management skill. Maybe you're good at making memes and helping your project more popular. Or maybe you can be a community builder and help bring people together. So there's really many ways to get involved.
I think that today we had a discussion about how we are able to potentially educate the people, right? And I came to the one new word coming from you is the metaversity. That's why we are sitting here in the university, but we are hearing the word is metaversity. So I was quite surprised. What does it mean? And I think that good to have Gabi here to give us a bit of the flavor. What does it mean and how we are seeing the education and the kind of the training in the future?
Yeah, so with the idea of a metaverse being a borderless online world where anyone can participate, we created this Metaversity initiative within YGG Philippines to learn skills that are important for people to succeed in Web3. So it could be from something like, for example, writing smart contracts, learning more about specific crypto projects, learning how to do content creation. So these are things that are important, and you can contribute to these no matter where you are in the world. And I think that's the beauty of crypto, really. You have the same technology that's available whether you're in Silicon Valley, you're in Southeast Asia, or in Africa, or anywhere in the world. And maybe this is not as appreciated if you're coming from the more developed regions like the US, but from us in the Philippines, knowing that we had the power to have the technology that allowed us to compete with anyone across the world, it was something very empowering for us, especially then when we started during COVID, but more so now that the world is kind of coming back, the real world, and you're seeing that people are still very empowered by this technology.
Maybe you can tell us in this room how we are able to support this metaversity, how we are able to contribute, what kind of the skill set that we might bring there.
Yeah, so first of all, our Discord community is available. You can go to discord.gg/YGG. Apart from Metaversity, we have an initiative called the Guild Advancement Program. So it lets you play different games within our community and fulfill different roles, and then you get reputation badges, so the soulbound token badges that are achievements for things that you've done within the community. And so these are NFTs that are not tradable, that's why they're called soulbound tokens. But these are badges that basically they're like credentials that show what you've done within the community. And our hope is that by people enhancing their reputation with soulbound token achievements, people can see what kind of contributions they've done to Web3 communities, and they'll be more highly valued by the projects that are looking to work with them.
We are seeing the many nationalities here in this room. I think there's Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Philippines. If we look at across the region, I think that every single nation or the country has this specific strength in this, contribute to the Web3. So we are in Vietnam. So are you able to evaluate a bit on the skill set that Vietnamese has, and is maybe in comparison with the Philippines?
Yeah, so my background on this is in game development. Philippines had been in game development for just a little bit over 20 years, but the strength had always been more around the art side. What I've noticed in Vietnam is that it's a country that's very strong in terms of developers. There's certainly a lot more developers here than in the Philippines. And you've also had a rich experience of a lot of different companies here. So for example, Gameloft, the mobile game company that was in the Philippines for a while, they've also had a rich experience coming from here in Vietnam. And I remember during 9 years ago when Flappy Bird became a hit, I actually went to Hanoi to look for the founder. And he didn't show up, by the way. But it actually spawned a lot of really strong game developers in Hanoi as well. So there's a very rich history of game development coming from Vietnam. But specifically, I think on the engineering side, it's very strong.
So for now, if I think that the crypto provides us more kind of it's not about the country, it's very global. And it gives us kind of the infrastructure to go global and collaborate across the region. So for example, let's take the region first. So Vietnam, as you mentioned, is technology base is very good. Philippines and Thailand potentially be design. So are you seeing any, the further collaboration or the tighter collaboration in the future where all these strengths can be put into one?
Yeah, I sure hope so. We have our partner guild, WeGG, which is formerly called YGG Southeast Asia. And its members contain, team members from Vietnam, across us, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia. So we are hoping to see a lot more of this kind of collaboration because you can get the strengths and the skills of people from wherever they are, and they don't have to move to a different country to be able to do this. I think now with what we can do with remote work and online collaboration, people are able to collaborate and build good products in Web3.
One of the things I think that right now the crypto winter, even the market or the whole kind of the economy, the world economy is having a lot of headwinds. And in my podcast, I was talking to many different people, and before it was more about the go-to-market, new strategies, new business models, experimenting. But now it's turning more into optimization, how you are able to cut the costs, how you are able to optimize investments. And it has a big impact on the people. And this shows that these are some opportunities here, and I'm trying for the 6 months now, trying to find these bright spots that giving them the motivation. Can you please give me some kind of these bright spots that potentially can motivate people?
Sure. So I would say that my advice there is that don't just learn on what area is hot right now. Go where your intellectual curiosity takes you. Whether that's Web3, whether it's AI, smart contracts, game development, whatever. As I said, when I started in games in 2003, there was no game company in the Philippines. And it was very difficult because we didn't have a lot of resources to choose from. And when we were doing smart contracts in NFTs in 2017, 2018, it was also the very beginning. And people think that, oh, he was lucky in NFTs, he must have been very lucky, it was very fortunate to have been early, but 2018 and 19, there was like zero money in NFTs at all. And the people who were playing Axie then, they were doing it out of their own cost, and you weren't really making money. And it wasn't until my 3rd or 4th year doing NFTs that things actually started picking up. So so it wasn't there strictly because of the money. Of course, it can reward you later on, but go where the technology and your interest leads you. You have to really build your skill set. You learn on your own. Find a group of people that you can learn with. And I think when you create your skills and then start building something unique, that's when you will be rewarded.
Okay. I still remember around 2 years ago, close to 2 years ago, all the events in Vietnam were about blockchain, NFT, crypto, and all these things. When the winter came, everybody somehow disappeared. And so I'm seeing now these, the more and more events are coming up again. Is there any special trigger? Why is this happening right now?
Yeah, I think people are really kind of drawn by their own emotions, right? Like when the market is up, everyone is happy, everyone wants to contribute, make money. When the market is down, everyone wants to stay home, a little bit depressed. But I think the key is for you to be consistent. Yeah, you have to go out there, continuously be learning, and don't let the market dictate what or when you'll be learning, because that means that it'll be outside of your control. So it's very important to really find what genuinely interests you and stick with it.
In Vietnam, we have a special word. You work because of money, or you work because of it's your hobby, right? Làm vì đam mê, we call it làm vì đam mê. Maybe some Vietnamese are here understanding that. But as you are mentioning that, of course, you are doing something that attracts you, that you're curious about. But of course, you need to have some money to survive. So how I'm able to combine this?
Yeah, so I would say that you don't really have to start out and make Web3 your full-time job. There are a lot of people who join our community who still have day jobs. They have monthly salary, they have income, they have salaries for their family to provide for. And then they dabble with their interests with their free time, right? Building up their skills, whether they're contributing to a project, whether they're learning to code smart contracts. And I think that's a good way to get into new technology. You don't immediately have to go all in full-time and then risk your career, risk your family safety to do that. I think having an income in a day job actually provides you with some level of safety. And as long as you have the discipline to have the time outside of your job to learn your craft, I think that's a good way to get started until the time where you feel confident that you can make your passion, or whether it's Web3 or anything else, your full-time job.
That was my question, but you somehow partially answered that. You maybe do this as a side kind of the hobby, but when is the right time to just switch from the hobby to the full-time?
Well, it's hard to, I don't think there's one right time from everyone, right? So for example, for me, personally, I was still making mobile games, and that was was paying the bills while I was experimenting with a lot of my free time on NFTs. And then, and then after maybe more than a year of doing that, we had the opportunity to work on an NFT game project, and then that was when it kind of just accelerated for me. But I didn't know what the timing would be. We didn't know if it would be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. And I think for NFTs, actually, COVID really accelerated the adoption of NFTs because everyone was stuck at home and couldn't do anything else. And none of us really expected NFTs to grow the way that they had been in the last 2 years.
I know several friends, they were traditional developers. When the blockchain hype came, they switched off and they moved to the blockchain side. But during the winter, they came back to traditional job. But now they're thinking again to jump back. So do you
jump back or move to AI, right?
yeah. So what do you think about this? Kind of the jumping in, jumping out, and how we are able to make them, sustainable? Because this is, creating a bit of the, crash on the market.
Yeah, I think people really have to stick with something and get good at it. So for example, the people who did very well in crypto and NFTs in 2021 and 2020, they were the ones that were building in 2017, 18, 19, right? So you can't just come in when the market is hot and expect to succeed immediately, because the people who will be successful first are the ones who had been building for a long time, not knowing when they will be rewarded for it. So you really have to put in the time, and there's really no substitute for that.
Maybe I was asking this question to many people, but I think that we would like to also answer, get your kind of angle. I don't know why, but from the adoption of the blockchain adoption in Vietnam, they are still #1 in the world. Do you know the reason why?
Well, I don't know for Vietnam specifically, but I think that the population here is very tech literate. I think that Vietnam has one of its local heroes with Sky Mavis and Axie, who are one of the best in the world at what they're doing in the blockchain field. And yeah, I just think that it's great that the Vietnamese people are very literate when it comes to using crypto.
Okay, so that is connected more into the tech literacy. Okay, but on the other hand, also Vietnamese are big gamblers. So this is, how do you think this is the good combination? Because majority of the kind of the perception about the crypto is a bit of the gambling, right?
Well, when it comes to, I guess, trading, there's a lot of speculation around it, and that probably contributes to that. But I think that what we'd encourage people is to move from the speculation and to actually use the technology, right? We just had a great presentation earlier from Ilya on like what it would take to use the near technology, for example, for your decentralized applications. And I think, yeah, it's very promising, and that's what we should move into. And speculation will always be a part of crypto, but I think actual usage is what drives adoption.
Okay, okay. So today I think that the topic was more about how we're able to use the game or gaming as the enabler to move to the Web3. But maybe just side question is, gaming is one thing that how you're able to maybe to bring the Web3 closer to the users and the people, right? What are the other areas? For example, for me as a non-gamer, I would like to see potentially the application in potentially the daily life that can solve my daily problems. Do you see in the coming years, there's any new industry aside of the gaming?
Well, more than gaming, I think the idea that people are able to own their own data is very important. So for example, if you have your personal data, if you have your healthcare data, that shouldn't be in the hands of big corporations. It should be in the hands of the users, and then they should be the ones to select which companies can have access to this data. So when it comes to your data, your history might be your medical history, your fitness history, your reputation, which is what we're doing in games as well. I think it's important that actually people own their own data when it comes to that. And there's a lot of different applications in different industries, but it's better for example, the user to own their own data and then grant access to a Google or a Facebook, rather than Facebook owning all of that data around me, and they have the capability to do whatever they want around it.
That means that currently the powerful corporations, that they are somehow maybe on the better front that they can own those data, are they considering Web3 as the threat to the traditional business that they're doing right now?
I think it's definitely going to be a disruption. You're seeing some traditional companies, I would say, adopt Web3 faster than others. So for example, banks are very resistant to Web3 because if people own their own money, their own wallets, then no one really needs banks anymore, right? So yeah, you're seeing different rates of adoption, but I think that we're gonna see more decentralized applications in the future, especially as the user experience gets better. And what you're seeing, for example, in games, they might be games now, but these are virtual economies where people can live and go to work and then trade. And yeah, they might not be going to physical office or corporations anymore in the future.
Okay, I think that we have a few minutes left. I think that more and more events and more kind of these gatherings are happening across the region. So can you share potentially what is coming up that we can looking forward to, and what are the events that potentially we can put into the calendars right now?
Sure. So next week I'll be in Japan for Non-Fungible Tokyo and IVS in Kyoto. In November, we're going to have a big event in the Philippines. It's going to be called the YGG Web3 Gaming Summit. So we're going to feature all of the latest games and the developers and the community members who are very excited to play them.
All right. Thank you very much, Gabi and all, for listening to this. And I'm very hoping that we'll have more experience with you and talking with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miro.
Thank you so much, Gabby and Miro, for such a very exciting discussion through Web3 through the lens of gaming.